I need the wake up too. So welcome to 1 Million Cups. 1 Million Cups is a program sponsored by the Kauffman Foundation out of Kansas City, Missouri. Kauffman provides opportunities for communities to come together over 1 million cups of coffee every week on Wednesdays at 9 a.m. across the country in how many, 90 cities now? 90 cities, one of them being Orlando. We were one of the first and finest in our community, so we should be really proud of what our community has done to make this happen. We try and bring two presenters every week to talk to us about their startup company and what they're developing, and then we provide them positive, constructive feedback. We like to refer to ourselves as the guppy tank rather than the Shark Tank, and we really try and be constructive. We have lots of people in the audience that are experts to help out our presenters. This is also, Kauffman is very committed to developing education for entrepreneurs and also for people that might serve as entrepreneurs. So today we're going to take a little deviation from our typical programming. So we will return to our regular programming on the second half, but we're trying to make sure we have a full audience for our presenters. And we're going to open with a 20-minute video developed by the Kauffman Foundation, and then after we do that video, we'll take a break. And Stephanie, the title of the video, again, it's already out of my head. Top mistakes for powerful presentations. So this is a good opportunity if you are building work for an entrepreneur to take this free information and to bring it to them, gift it to them, which, speaking of building entrepreneurs, we are being live streamed at Canvas. Hi, Canvas. Canvas has, oh, yay, Boone just covered up the live stream. And Canvas hosts Starter Studio, which is developing entrepreneurs in our community as well. And also they are a co-officing space, which is great if you're a startup company. You can pop in, use a lot of their assets and resources, etc. And we have other live streams that Isabella is working on. So we're going to be expanding that development to Valencia and Seminole State, woohoo! We have a guest from Seminole State. So really quickly, who's here for the first time? Well, welcome. So we automatically recruit you in to be a volunteer. Our group is all volunteer driven. So we need, as a volunteer, for you to do a couple of things. One, bring a friend next time. Come back and bring someone with you. And then also, if you're involved in the entrepreneurship community, please ask them to apply to present at our organization, because the more presenters we have, the more people we can help, and the more we develop the ecosystem of our starter community. Want to really quickly thank our sponsors, Rollins. Obviously, this beautiful facility that we're in is provided by Rollins. They also give us staff support. They are also out seeking presenters for us all the time, doing a great job in that arena. Barney's Coffee, they're the ones that help me talk this fast. Bless their hearts. Randall with Torch Studios, and Randall also acts as an organizer for us. In fact, I think he's become more volunteer than sponsor lately, but thank goodness he gives us the technology to do the live streaming. All of your organizers, I'm one of them. I'm Angela Kendall. We work for Tweets and Hugs, we like to say. Miss Isabella over here, Miss Stephanie, and Jan, where'd you go? There's Jan, and Jan. And we have some new organizers joining us. We have Chelsea, Kristen, and Chad. Nice to see you all. They're coming into the group and beginning their tour. And who? Hi, Maria. Oh, Maria's coming in as well. So we are transitioning. We try and keep it fresh and innovative by bringing new blood into the group. All right, I think that that's pretty much our opening, and off to the video.
The first mistake, the number one mistake that I find most people make when they're presenting to investors or customers is they have a weak opening. A weak opening makes it really hard for you to have a great presentation. So here's a couple things you can do to make sure that you don't have a weak opening. Number one, you must always start on time, no matter how many people are in the room. The second related item to time is making sure that you have a start time that doesn't conflict with other things that are going on. Now, when do meetings typically end? They end on the hour. And when do presentations usually start? On the hour. Well, if a meeting ends on the hour and the next one starts on the hour, they can't start on time. So my recommendation to you is, when you have an important presentation, start the meeting at 10 minutes past the hour or 15 minutes past the hour, and that way you can make sure to have that time you need to set up, your stress level is lower, and that way you can have a much better result. The next thing that I would do anytime you have to present to an investor, especially to investors, is to simply verify the amount of time you have with that investor. Most people would go into a presentation, set up their kit, and start presenting with PowerPoint or Keynote slides. In my opinion, that is not the way to start an investor meeting. You want to make sure that nothing has changed from the time you set up your meeting. So just simply start out, I'd just like to verify the time we have together here. We have till 11 o'clock. Is that still the case? Yes. Then you go on. If they say no, then you can adjust and make sure that people get out when they need to get out. Now, once the opening comes and you're ready to start speaking, obviously that is a magic moment in the presentation. That's the point where you put the grabber, the hook, whatever you want to say that will cause everyone in the room to stop what they're doing and want to really listen to what you have to say. Mistake number 2 is just not being memorable. So you have to understand, when you're presenting to investors, customers, affiliates, partners, there are hundreds of you, if not thousands of you out there presenting your ideas for products and services. So I would like to encourage all of you to think about things you can do that set you apart from everyone else out there presenting. Using stories, similes, analogies, metaphors, and examples will help you set yourself apart from the masses. The third mistake that people make, and this is just everywhere, it's called slide abuse. You abuse your audience with slides. For example, I want to put up a slide right now, and I want you to try something. Don't read it, okay? Seriously, don't read this next slide. Is that possible? Unlikely. The only way you cannot read this slide is if you close your eyes. And so while you're talking about what you want them to hear, they're reading. This same slide as a presentation slide ought to look something like this. Simple words, everybody's read them, and now they need to listen to you for the context around those words. This is the same slide. The only difference is we've taken off most of the words. But the point is, they have to wait for you to deliver the information. The surprise is back in your hands versus on the slide. So mistake number 4 is a very interesting one. I find people have way too many slides. Now, what I'd like you to consider, though, for a moment, is that maybe you present with no slides. Maybe you say, well, we don't have slides. We have a couple of visuals that we can show you. Better yet, maybe you go up to the whiteboard and have a whiteboard discussion where the engineers can come up and draw things on the whiteboards. Or a flip chart even. Whatever your plan is, it's really important that you have a backup plan. Plan B, what if your slides don't work today? What if the projector doesn't work? You need to have some backup when you go out to these really important meetings. And more importantly, you need to practice the backup plan. Mistake number 5 is something people don't think about often. And I call it power thieves. These are things that you do when you're presenting that kind of steal that power or credibility that you get when you're presenting. For example, standing up in front of a group and saying, ladies and gentlemen, I'm really nervous today. I didn't get a lot of sleep last night. The projector's been a problem today. We ran into too much traffic, and I hope I can get through this presentation. You do that, most people think you're going to get sympathy from your audience. In fact, the opposite happens. You make them even more nervous. Just get it through your head. We're all nervous. Every one of us are nervous. And if you're not, wait till the end of this presentation and I'll show you a few things you can do to help you deal with those nerves. One of the biggest things that will detract from your credibility as a speaker is idiosyncrasies that make it hard to listen to. There are about 4 topics that I want to talk about. Many people have these non-words that they stick in their sentences. And be careful of how you start all of your sentences. Okay? Try not to use the same word over and over and over again, like basically. In fact, nothing's really basic about what you're doing when you're talking to an investor, because if it is, that means everybody else can do it as well. Mistake number 6. This is where you get into the opportunity where they give you a chance to demo your product or your service. And I know this happens to a lot of you. When you get into demoing your product or your service, you just give a ClickFest demo. It's like click, 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 click. Let me show you this other great feature. Click, 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 click. So you want to be really careful about how you're demonstrating your product. Make sure that you don't give too much information, go too long in the product demonstration, or dive too deep, especially in that first meeting, where you just want to give them a little taste. Now, many times I'm asked, do I give a live demonstration to an investor? I would say generally no, not in a first meeting. Too many things can go wrong. You might not have good internet connection. So how do you get ready to do a live demo without having the internet? If you need the internet, all you need to do is record your demo before you leave the office and edit it down so that you chop out all the stuff you don't need and you create a movie, and then you play the movie. And that movie will take people through the demonstration of your product or your service. Mistake number 7. This is one of my favorites. You know, many of our meetings are online, and I find that people have bad online etiquette. So when you're presenting online, one of the mistakes I find is you think your slides are showing up on the other side of the world at the same speed that they're showing up on your laptop. So you hit the down arrow on your laptop and a new slide shows up. In London, it's not even there yet. So you should verify once in a while, just take a moment and verify that the slide that you are seeing is being seen by the people in your meeting. Now, when you're presenting online, I want to warn you right now, there is something that you can cause more headaches and more problems in a heartbeat, and that's using instant messengers. So you know what it's like, right? You rush into your office, you get onto your GoToMeeting client, and you quickly say, share desktop. And then you run off to get a cup of coffee, you come back, you sit down, you start presenting. You're in presentation mode. All of a sudden, someone you were out late last night with decides to send you a very embarrassing message over Skype. And right on your screen, whoop, up pops that message for everyone to see. Turn off all your instant messengers. Better yet, get a laptop that you present on that doesn't have any of this stuff loaded so you don't get in any trouble. And then finally, when you get to the point where you want to ask questions, I want to pass on a hint to you of how to get people to actually respond to you when you're in an online meeting. What usually happens when you have a meeting with, let's say, people in 4 locations around the world, and you stop and you say, I'd like to stop and ask, are there any questions? Nobody says anything, right? Usually, because nobody wants to step on somebody else's talking. Well, the way to solve that problem is really simple. When you want to ask for questions, take a moment and go around and ask. So I just want to stop for questions for a moment. Let's start with the group in London. Are there any questions in London? No? Okay, how about Dubai? Yes? Okay, ask away. Just taking a moment, asking people by name or by group can make the meeting go much, much better and gives you that interaction capabilities that you lose when you're in an online meeting. Mistake number 8, people who are presenting just lack enthusiasm. So here's a couple things to think about if you want to turn on your enthusiasm. Have you looked in a mirror or have you looked at a video of yourself to see what is your face actually saying? I'll bet you this, most of your faces aren't saying much. And you're missing out a great opportunity to communicate your passion, your excitement by just simply opening your eyes a little bit more or smiling, or using your voice to communicate. So let your voice become an integral part of the message that you're giving to people. And then finally, you need to make some eye contact with your audience. If you're not making eye contact, you're not building trust. Number 9. This one applies not just to Americans, but to people outside of America as well. And that is being culturally unaware of things that we say or do in a room that could be totally offensive to the people listening. For example, the gestures that you use, the words, the pictures, or the food jokes that you make could literally be offending the audience and you don't even know it. And I want to use a personal example that happened to me many, many years ago. First time I was in London, I was really excited. It was 1985. Hey, first time out of the States, I was like wildly excited. And I stand up in front of the audience of like 300 people. And I say, I have 2 things that I want to share with you here today. 2 very, very important things. And after about 10 seconds, people started smirking, smiling, chuckling in the room, and I had no idea why people were smiling, because I wasn't telling any jokes. So before you go to these different countries and blindly use your jokes and your Americanisms when you're presenting, double check. And the same goes for you coming to the States. Be careful of what you might be doing to your audiences with your gestures, the words, the food jokes, and your picture selections. Number 10. This one is a big one. People, when they get into the question and answer periods during an investor presentation or even a customer presentation, they go into this weird mode because they're being asked questions maybe they don't want to answer, or you're being asked a question that you would prefer to not answer in this environment, and you get into this mode where you start becoming obnoxious. So be sure that when it comes to the questions, that you spend a fair amount of time going through the types of questions that you think you're going to get, and do the same thing for your questions that you do for your presentation. Write out the answers and rehearse them, not so that they're memorized, but just so that you're not caught off guard. So listen very, very carefully to the question, even if you've heard it hundreds of times before, because for them, it's the first time they're asking the question of you. So give them the respect that maybe it's not the first time you heard the question, but give them the respect of listening to the question, and don't jump on the answer right away. Mistake number 11. In my book, there's two kinds of ways to get ready for a presentation. The first is practice. And practice, to me, is something you do at home, in your office, by yourself, with the laptop or with the iPad sitting there going through the presentation, maybe in your car. That's practice. But rehearsals are when you actually do the presentation with a living, breathing human being in the room. In fact, if you don't rehearse, then you're not ready. Just practicing doesn't get you really to the point of being able to deliver a compelling presentation. Steve Jobs was famous for giving presentations that were outstanding, right? How did he get to be so good? At 2 o'clock in the morning, if he wanted to present, he knew he needed an audience, so he'd text out, or his assistant would text out to people, they'd show up in the auditorium, and he would present on stage. They weren't allowed to talk, they were just needing to be there so he had an audience. Well, if you think he's a great presenter and you want to get anywhere near the ability that he has, you'll start rehearsing and stop practicing. Number 12, never finish a presentation with questions and answers. I have a really interesting way for you to conclude your investor meetings or even customer meetings. And here's how it goes. It's named after Detective Columbo, and I call it the Columbo Close. Now, I know people have seen this show. It's back in the 70s. This bumbling detective couldn't find the nose on his face until the end of the show, when in the last 2 minutes he'd be walking out the door and say, "By the way, I just have one more question." And of course, that question would crack the case wide open and solve the case and figure out who did it. So the Columbo Close, to me, is a way that you can bring everybody's brain back to thinking about you without making a question and an answer the last thing that they hear. So remember, I don't want you to end your meetings with questions and answers. As soon as those are all done and everybody's out of questions, then you can say, "I just have one more thing I want to share with you here today." Remember, I just have one more thing. And the way the Columbo Close works is something like this. I'll use an example of a company from Ireland that has a perfect example of how they use the Columbo Close for all of their investors. This company called Epona Technologies, they make a little device that goes in your hand that veterinarians can use to take a blood draw from the horse, put it into the device, and it reads out the blood test results within about 5 minutes. So you know the problem up to this point of being able to get instant results is you take a blood draw from the horse, you send it to the lab, it's 5:15, the lab is closed on Friday at 5:15. Saturday they're closed, Sunday they're closed, Monday they open. There's this long list of labs that have to be done. Yours is at the bottom. Doesn't get done till Tuesday. The horse died on Monday. So with this technology, here's how they close. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to finish by leaving you with one final thought. That's the beginning of the Columbo Close. And that is, when you leave here today and you drive down our country roads, you might notice a horse standing in the field. And when you see that horse, you'll know today you have seen a technology that will forever change how veterinarians can care for those horses right where they're standing. And then they would say, thank you very much. So what has that done? Think about that. It's a thought they put in the mind so that the next time they do something in normal everyday life, like the next time you get in your car, the next time you eat, the next time you brush your teeth, the next time you do anything, guess what's going to happen? If you do it right, they'll think of you. So I challenge all of you to come up with something that you can use for your businesses and leave that as the last parting thought so that the next time they do something, they'll think of you. And that's not a bad thing, is it? Okay, to wrap up this presentation of the top mistakes that people make when presenting and how to avoid them, I want to offer you a bonus. People tell me they're nervous. You need those nerves to be on the top of your game. However, what most people find is those nerves start overwhelming them, and they forget what they want to say, and they start sweating, and they get too nervous, and it shows. Here are 3 things you can do to help you deal with the nerves. The first one is something most presenters don't even think of, but singers and athletes think of it all the time. You need to warm up. As a presenter, if you don't warm up, your voice box here is not going to give you the best performance. So as a speaker and a presenter, you should be warming up your voice too. And you can do it in the car, you can do it outside. You don't have to use any special words or phrases, just hum. Humming is enough. Number 2, when we get stressed and nervous, your physiology changes. Right? You're thinking so hard about what you want to say, and you want to make sure you're likable and people get what you're saying, that in some cases you forget to breathe. You can actually make yourself really nervous by just breathing very shallow breaths high up in the chest. You need to breathe a few breaths down into the abdomen. When you know it's time to start, a minute or 2 before that, put that oxygen into your body, your brain will start to light up again, and that adrenaline that's flowing through your body will actually work in your favor. And then finally, I want to share with you my all-time secret to getting into the groove with your first word. All I do in my mind is play a very special song. So as I start to hear the music of Rocky, the theme song from Rocky, the first 5 seconds is enough for me to automatically put my body and brain into a state of mind that makes me unstoppable, and I'm really ready. So the music for me instantly turns my brain on. Pick a piece of music that when you hear it, you will instantly be transformed. I know that that will totally transform how you start every one of your presentations from here on in.
One Million Cups is a weekly educational program developed by the Kauffman Foundation.
Over the years, we've added more cities. It creates a great energy here to see what's happening across the country.
What I've learned from other entrepreneurs is very, very valuable.
Sitting in a room with other people that have ideas too, it helps people to leave thinking, you know what, my idea is worth something. It's worth pursuing. It's worth going after it. Even if it looks like a challenge, I should still go out and try to do it.
Kaufman's up in Kansas City, and they put these on all across the nation. So if you're not familiar with it, I'm going to give you a quick rundown. So here at 1 Million Cups in Orlando, as well as across the nation, we have 2 entrepreneurs that usually come in every Wednesday morning from 9 a.m. to 10, and they give a 6-minute presentation. Then we have a 20-minute question and answer session. The question and answer session, please shout out. But we'll come around with the mic. Please shout in the mic. We live stream not only in Orlando, but we're also across the nation at other 1 Million Cups, as well as in other foundations in Orlando. We use the mics strictly so that our live streamers can hear us. So if you have a question at the end, raise your hand, we'll come see you, and we will give you the mic and ask away. We also have an audience on YouTube and on Twitter, so they'll be asking questions too. Hopefully we get some interaction. So today, I'm gonna let Chelsea, our new girl, introduce our new presenters.
Yeah, before I introduce them, I do want to give one more shout out to our sponsors, Rollins for giving us this beautiful space, Barney's Coffee for keeping us caffeinated, and Torch Studios where Stephanie mentioned we're being live streamed. Right now, we are going to hear from Sod Industries. Please, gentlemen.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. First, thank you for this opportunity to be in such great event. My name is Saad. I'm the CEO and the founder of SAAD Industries, which means Systems of Advanced Automation Development. And this is my partner,
Aziz Ilwali.
So again, we are an engineering company, and we're trying to demonstrate one of our devices, which is called Jarvis. Yes, like the Iron Man movie. So what is Jarvis? Jarvis is a voice-enabled automation system which gives the user the ability to control lighting, appliances, and security systems. Before explaining more Jarvis, I would like to share a personal story that was the reason behind creating Jarvis. There were 3 elements, which are necessity, affordability, and availability. Back in 2012, I got my 3rd herniated disc, which sometimes I was unable to operate around the house. So one day, under the influence of medications, I forgot to turn off the light. And I kept looking at it and wishing that I had a powerful or a device that can turn it off. And with that thought, I slept, and I actually had a dream that I was in the Iron Man movie. I was a partner of Tony Stark talking to Jarvis. Like, Jarvis, turn off the light, Jarvis, turn on the light. And so on, when I woke up, I was, hey, let's do a research. I couldn't find any in the market. So I changed my major from mechanical engineering to electrical and computer engineering, and I built it. And I tried to make it affordable and also available to every single person in this society. So I would like to share what is automation system for who doesn't know. For a simple automation system, which can be controlled by tablets and smartphones, you need first internet, hub, of course, the smartphone or tablet, and also some require professional installation. For an advanced automation system, the price is between $120,000 to $500,000. 100% you need a professional installation, you need special equipment, you need separate room for that equipment, and miles of wirings. And some also require monthly service. Problems we are solving: first, availability; second, affordability, make it affordable to society; and quality. It is affordable, and it doesn't mean the quality will be low. Efficiency. Most of the devices, based on my research, most of the devices in the market, they're not reachable when their internet is down. Productivity. Need to control every single section of the house. Privacy, no internet needed, means it's 100% private. And green energy means that device is plugged into the outlet. Even though it's off, it still consumes power. But with Jarvis, the only power is consumed is less than 2 watts and 5 volts. How Jarvis works. First, the user speaks to Jarvis, the system, and he tells him whatever he wants to control. For example, I want to turn the TV on. Once you tell Jarvis, I want to turn the TV on, Jarvis, with the transmitter, will control the TV. And let's do a quick demonstration. Jarvis, are you listening? Yes. Turn the bedroom lights on. The bedroom light is on. For example. Let's try it. Jarvis, are you listening? Yes. Introduce yourself.
Well, my name is Jarvis, and I am your personal artificial intelligence assistant. I can help the user control its surroundings, such as the house appliances. Besides the house, I can also control anything you use in your daily basis. Yes, I do. Don't be amazed. Did I forget to mention any other ability?
Actually, you did.
What did I miss?
The other things you can do.
The 4th of November 2015.
Jarvis, are you listening?
Yes.
The other things you can do.
My apologies. I got carried on bragging about my controlling abilities. I can also inform the user about the weather forecast, search for locations, or even read and type emails.
That was the end of my presentation. Thank you very much for coming today, and it was so pleasure to share my work with you guys.
All right, do we have a first question over this way?
When we're doing questions, please make sure you have the mic or we won't be able to pick you up on the live stream.
Thank you very much for your presentation. It was fun and it kept focus. Competition. So there are these systems around at the moment being sold, and also they seem to be selling the attraction that you will use the internet and I can do these control functions remotely. So I was just wondering what you think your competition is, and what they're doing that you may see as a threat to this. And so examples are, I could be worried about my house security right now, and I could use my cell phone to turn on the security, which is all a form of these systems. So tell me about competition and why you think this would be more attractive than the others.
The most important element I'm concentration in is privacy. The devices available in the market use the internet, yes, but the server isn't at their company. Means if I have a camera in my house and they're the service provider, even though I have a username and password, they're able to access it and see me. The way I'm building it, the user will have his own server. Me, for example, I'm the company, I sold him the device, I don't have no access to it. That's the main important that differentiate my company from other devices. Thank you.
Hi, I know of a company that started out in Orlando. They're now in a different location that I'd like to connect you to if this is appropriate. And so my question is, are you going to be building, like, you talked about green energy, so artificial intelligence into the system so that your Jarvis system can learn your energy needs at home, can learn your lighting needs, can do those kinds of automated things? How are you building that software, and who are you partnering with to do that?
I mean, so far I don't have any partners. I'm working on this alone. And to answer the efficiency of energy, for example, do we have any systems available in the market that would ask, for example, let's say the electricity bill is due by the 30th, and you are, like, let's say 25th. You ask him, Jarvis, how much my electricity bill so far? He will give you exactly the amount of power consumed and how you can prevent that from happening the next time.
Hi, I have kind of two questions. Have you started selling this product to like consumers?
So far, no.
No, okay. If you were, can you tell me like where your market would be?
I will start with the local market. Again, the reason behind me creating this was my disability. So I would like to help people with disabled persons. Yeah, I mean, I would start with Florida first and then aim toward nationally.
To expand that question, we have a lot of market as well as like construction companies. And the most important thing, like he said, we want to do this with the elderly. They're the most in need in these kind of things. Like he said, we both like had a herniated disc, so it's kind of hard for us to control anything in the house. So the markets we have so far is like the elderly, what we're gonna do with the patients and the construction as well, because the new construction companies, you wanna like build a new system, just because in the near future, everything is gonna change.
You mentioned that you have your own server. Can you explain how that works in the cost comparison of going outside on the internet?
For example, a company that has their own server and you are, I cannot say name. So a company, let's say I'm not Jarvis. I'm a company that provides internet. So I'm providing you with internet. So your internet connection is through me, through my service, the servers. So there's no privacy in it. But the way I'm doing it, it's your own server. And the cost, I mean, I would say it will be almost 90% less than it should be, because I'm giving you just a small server instead of me first getting a big facility, big hardwares and advanced electronics to provide you with the service.
Hello. So my first question is, if you haven't hit the market yet, what can we as a community do for you? What are you looking for? What are your primary needs right now for Jarvis?
My primary needs are to evolve with this product, make a better design, make it more efficient. So far, the hardware is 100% working, no deficiency at all. And what I hope with this community is to share my work with the people, let them know that the day of the artificial intelligence are almost here, and they can have this advanced technology at house for more affordability.
Over here.
Yes.
Okay, so you said that you were doing this wirelessly without internet on the individual device controls. What is the price point of those controls? Who's making them? Are they being designed and manufactured here in the United States? Are you using off-the-shelf product? Is it Z-Wave? Is it just RF switches that are, I mean, there's a bajillion questions that go into this. That's the first thing. So the question is, have you produced it? If not, where are you getting it? That's the first. And then the second thing is, there's a company, Insteon, that has a system that works with Alexa, and it provides whole house automation for under $300. I can wirelessly integrate my entire house. So you guys have some stiff competition. What can you do that is different from them? Not faster, better, cheaper, but really honestly different.
I mean, for my company, there are three elements: the software, the transmitter, and the receiving hardware. The transmitter is a USB device. You just install the software, you plug it in, you have that connected to the wall, and that's it, you're connected. The difference between my company and others, the price. I mean, you said it yourself, between $100 to $300. I'm aiming to make mine under $50 or maybe $20. No, not the whole house, but for the switch. So let's say you want like 10 devices. with the transmitter on the software, it will be less than $200 and more advanced than whatever they have in the market. Because as for now, yes, you can speak to the lamp, but the near future, instead of Jarvis listening to you, he can see you. Let's give an example. You have to go run some errands, and you're expecting the handyman to come home. So you can tell him, Jarvis, when the handyman or the name of that person, when he comes home, open the door, and he'll do that. Again, to control Jarvis outside of the house, the server is private. It's in your own house. You own that server. So it is private.
Over here. Oh, you're next. Okay, right over here in front. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
The production of the units.
Oh, I'm sorry, I forgot it. The production, I'm aiming to make it made in USA. Everything can be made here, and less, I mean, it will cost less than made in China, which is traditionally every company does.
Okay, so nothing is in production. You are still in development.
Yes, we have a working prototype, but nothing produced yet.
Okay, I'd like to build on what he was just talking about. I thought those were really excellent points and questions. The first thing I want you to hear and the last thing I want you to hear is that a message of encouragement. Mm-hmm. I like what you're doing. I think there's a pony in this haystack somewhere, but you're going to get creamed based on what I'm seeing right now. Mm-hmm. There's all sorts of things happening in the marketplace. You're talking about manufacturing something at a price point that's less than the industry currently provides. I'm an early adopter of home automation. I've been using X10 for years, and those X10 products are at the price point, and they're using RF or other technologies, right now. So if you're trying to differentiate on the basis of something that you're manufacturing, I think you're running head-on into a collision that would be very hard for you to sustain. I'd like to encourage you to look at what you're doing on the software side, because some of that that has been demonstrated today, I think, is really unique and clever. It isn't so much about the privacy aspect, although that's going to be important to some people. I believe if you look in the marketplace right now at all of the offerings that are there, all of them are sort of technologically interesting, but none of them have yet reached a point where they're completely compelling. If you can outsmart the others in terms of functionality, who cares whether you're using your USB box or RF or some other technology? You're instead solving the problem that you started to solve because of a disability, and you're doing it in a way that is fundamentally different than exists in the marketplace. You might even be able to develop something that would work with all technologies, and so you could create an overarching solution. So I know you're looking for a question in there somewhere, but I think the question I would have has to do with, have you really given thought, now that you have a solution, a technology in place, to how this would be brought to a market in a way that gave you much more potential than just a solution that would serve the needs of a handful of people in Orlando?
Yeah, we actually since a few months ago, after we developed the product, we went to a lot of events, and this one makes us want to came here and talk to you guys, to the community. We had a lot of people came and saw Jarvis, how it works. People were amazed. A lot of people they like the simplicity of the product. They had some people that came up to me, some engineers. They had a problem with their products already had in the market. There is a lot of problems. And with this simple product we're coming up with, and on development stage, we're gonna create an awesome product in the future that people is gonna change their mind about it. For now, it's in development, but in a few months, it's gonna be something great.
First question: do you have a business plan?
Yes, we do.
A written document.
Yes, we do.
Okay, I would like to see that. I get the impression that you're trying to reinvent the wheel. And the scope of what you're trying to do, I think, based on what I don't know about you, but what I get the impression of is the lack of resources, et cetera, is you're trying to do too much. What I think you really should do is focus on one thing that you can really do well, right? And I think that's the interface between the user in Jarvis, okay? And for example, we're developing voice activation for VR equipment, virtual reality equipment. And what you're showing us here has potential to assist us with our stuff like that. The thing that I'm thinking of, though, is that if you want to create your own server and everything like that, that's fine. But the software is really you're a software company, okay? And what you need to do is you need to develop a dialogue tree that's going to be absolutely massive in order to really show your unique selling proposition vis-a-vis your competition, because they don't have that. You know, I'm not sure about X10, but they have a very limited number of interfaces between the customer and the service. So if you can create, and in gaming, that's what we do. We have dialogue trees that are huge, okay? And so that gives far more usability to the consumer than what you would otherwise be able to offer. And as far as the USB things and the servers and all this other stuff, buy them off the shelf or do a deal with people that are already making them and making them well, and focus on what you need to be doing, which is the interface. That would be my 2 cents.
Thank you.
Okay.
Hi. So I noticed in your presentation that you seem to put a high value on privacy. But have you thought about perhaps shifting or kind of pitching it as more of security? And what I'm thinking of this is, I have a government background, and a lot of the facilities that I go to, you cannot have outside connections to wireless and the world and all that. I know that you're doing this for a different reason, to help people who are in their homes that can't do this. But this sort of technology with the standalone servers that aren't connected to anything else could be applied to, you know, high research facilities or, you know, secure areas in the government field, that I don't know if that's already being done. I know I haven't seen it in any of the places I've been, but this could increase some productivity in those areas.
That's a great question. To know whether it's already applicable, no idea. But I met a lot of physical therapists, speech therapists, and also the director of Florida Hospital East Side, and they were amazed. They told me this can be installed in a hospital. And I had the idea of, for example, the patient, instead of clicking a button or wait for the nurse to come or something happened to him, the system can notify the department. Yes, it is doable.
And also at schools too, because I had the question, somebody asked me like at the Orlando Science Center. He said, is it doable at school? And actually, we're thinking about it in the future. If we have the right technology, the right team, the right resources, it's doable.
Just to follow up, so you're right now currently geared at business to consumer, but I guess where I'm thinking is, if you start thinking business to business, then your aspect of privacy and security is much more valuable than if you're looking at going into homes where there's other competitive products.
And I'm not going to ask a question. I'm just going to add on to what I think everyone is saying here. You know, the elder care market, with the baby boomers moving into a certain age group, you definitely need somewhere in your presentation to kind of dax up this business to business, this advanced care, home health care, these different vertical markets, so you can showcase to people what's in it for them. Because I think that that's a little bit missing in your presentation. Even though you talk to it, I think you need to give people like a visual connection and a market connection and be very clear on those things. So just piggybacking on what they're saying and expanding that.
I have a question. Can you all speak to your team and your roles on the team? Your team?
Sorry?
Can you speak to your team and your roles on the team?
Oh, you mean each of us, what it does? Okay. I'm the founder of the idea and also the designer, and he is an electrical engineer. He helps me with designing circuit and also in the business side. Oh, me.
Can you ask the question again?
Well, I asked how many programmers do you have in your team, and he said just himself. This is something that I would have at least 4 programmers on. So just FYI.
Sorry to interrupt. Believe me, sometimes to time myself on how long I sit on my office, I put movies, and I end up watching up to 55 movies. So to see the sun going up and down, it's hard for me to get out of my office. And also I do the software for the software and the software for the hardware. So that double. And also design the 3D model, print it, and fix it, put it together. So it is the work of up to 15 maybe engineers.
All right, it's time for one more question over here.
Oh, is it me? It wasn't a question. I just wanted to endorse the conversation. I mean, to be positive, you're doing a great job here. You need to consider your demographic. But what we've also learned is there may be pieces that are unique to you, like the interface we're talking about, that I think is encouraging if you look at that. But to the last question, and I've been in the corporate world, I've been in the private business world, when we purchase something, we want to know you're going to be around. Because if you have the only proprietary software and you go under a bus tomorrow, people will be really worried. So consider what that last set of questions were. How can you roll out that knowledge, if you have to a team that can support you so that Florida Hospital or otherwise will be comfortable. So it was just an observation. Be sure about your backup.
Thank you.
Okay, so that's the end of the Q&A, but we would like to ask, what can we do today? Although it was asked already, but today, right now, what can we do here for you?
I would just like, if anybody interested, once we start selling it for product, if anybody interested, they can have them and also like spread the message. And also, we're trying to build something for our community, make it affordable for everybody. Not anybody who has money can have an automation system at their house. Anybody who has a regular job can have an automation system. A lot of people need help. Like, what can we take the first step to make the future, our generation great and make everything affordable instead of like paying too much money for it?
Okay. Also, do you have any Facebook page, a Twitter handle that we can actually... Okay, Jarvis, I tried to look you in Twitter. I was not able to find...
We don't have Twitter.
You don't have a Twitter? Get one. That would be great. Yeah, so we can actually, give you a shout out. Any hashtags that you would like for us to recommend?
Hashtag Jarvis Automation System. And Jarvis. The reason the social media doesn't have as much information as it should be, because as I mentioned to the gentleman, it's too much work. There is no time to do documentations. That's why we need to gather a team. So far, we're both in it in this company.
Got it. All right, well, thank you very much. Let's give them a round of applause. Okay, well, this is it for today. So we will be here next Wednesday.
Okay, so next Wednesday we will be across the hall over there at the Crummer, the Bush Executive, and in their SunTrust Auditorium. So just watch for the signage, pay attention. I know people are going to come in and they're still going to forget, but remember next week we're across in the Crummer building, okay? Thank you.
Have a good Wednesday.
1 Million Cups is a weekly educational program developed by the Kauffman Foundation.
Over the years, we've added more cities. It creates a great energy here to see what's happening across the country.
What I've learned from other entrepreneurs is very, very valuable.
Sitting in a room with other people that have ideas too, it helps people to leave thinking, you know what? My idea is worth something. It's worth pursuing. It's worth going after it. Even if it looks like a challenge, I should still go out and try to do it.